no, we never talked about that. I guess I'll do it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pep Talk Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, October 25, and I'm in our Ludington office right now, and it is a rainy day in Ludington. Welcome to all of you. Doug Hale, Cindy Beckwith, and we've promoted Ann Heisen to panelists today. So welcome, Ann.
Yay.
Yay.
I love it. I love it. So we got Cindy in Lansing. Ann, what office are you in today?
Granville.
She's in the Granville office. And Doug, you're in Muskegon, right?
Well, I'm at home right now, just watching the rain, baby. Watching the rain.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not raining here.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, he's fresh back from a coffee hour in Whitehall, and I just finished a coffee hour in Ludington. So today we're going to be talking about, our goal is to just have topics available to you that feel relevant to sort of this changing market that we're in. So we've been doing these Pep Talk Tuesdays. I think this is our fourth one, maybe, gang?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think this might be the fourth one. So today we were talking about put in the offer, it's worth a shot. And really talking about this changing market that we're in. You know, we went from a market that looked like what? And what has your market looked like as a buyer's agent over the course of the last year and a half or more?
Obviously crazy as a buyer's agent, multiple offers, appraisal gap guarantees, no inspections most of the time. So it's been crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we're seeing a shift.
So when we're talking about put in an offer, it's worth a shot. Some of the things that come to mind for you, Doug, in this market, like what's possible today that wasn't possible both to all three of you, really? What's possible today that wasn't available in the market that Ann just described?
Well, we just talked about this at coffee hour a little bit this morning. And it was interesting that when we say times are changing, they really are changing. It's like somebody just literally put their foot on the emergency brake, right? That all of a sudden things were going at this high rate of speed with what you just said, Ann, no inspections, all of their thoughts of gap guarantees. I mean, all of the ways that you try to win in today's society on a purchase agreement. And all of a sudden it kind of went to a point of saying, hey, now it's a little bit more of a relaxed environment where I can make an educated buying decision. I can, in fact, have inspections. In fact, I have a voice in those inspections. And there's just an awful lot of, when I say it shifted. I mean, it went from here to way over here. And now all of a sudden buyers are saying, well, maybe I could be a little pickier, or I don't have to make that decision the day I walk through that house. And again, I think you're seeing some people feel a little bit more like, hey, as a buyer, I have a little bit more control in this. Whereas before, man, that control felt like it wasn't even there.
Yeah, so you just mentioned one thing that was, I can't remember the exact word you used, but like that there might be an opportunity to come back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So in the previous market that Ann described, we would show the house and we would almost be trying to write that, on the hood of the car when we left because we didn't have any time. So we have an opportunity to come back now, maybe bring mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, back to the house to take a second look at it. That has not been something that's been available prior to this market.
Well, and Tracy, I think there's a peace of mind in that too for a buyer, because they're now feeling like, hey, I've got a little bit more control in this, and I'm able to have a voice in the outcome. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that, boy, I'll tell you, when you sit down with a buyer, as Ann said a year ago, man alive, you just felt like you were at the mercy of whatever the seller wanted, really. Mm-hmm. And again, things have totally changed. I like it because it feels like when I say to people, is the market kind of correcting itself? The answer is yes. Mm-hmm. The answer is yes.
Well, I think it gives first-time home buyers a little more relief because they have some time. Yeah. I think before it was hard to help first-time home buyers because they had to make a decision typically or usually that day. And, it might be the first time out with them and all. So we're seeing a lot of first-time home buyers being able to get a home but not have to feel like they're under the gun to make that decision. They could sleep on it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It just feels like to me that there's more of a chance. And again, I keep talking about this. This again came up this morning. Those buyers that didn't have a chance in January or February or March because their offer wasn't going to be as good as a cash offer or a conventional offer, and as you just said, with no inspections and this gap guarantee that has this ridiculous number built into the purchase agreement. Now all of a sudden people are saying, look, maybe my offer does stand a chance. Maybe I am going to be valuable to the seller. So it's time to get back into the game a little bit. And I think they're going to need to listen to us as agents as we share with people what's changed and how here's the opportunity, guys. Let's not miss this one. So
yeah.
I think also before I forget, I want to add something, especially with the buyers you're working with. If it's every 30 days, I mean, as soon as that interest rate changes drastically, they need to get pre-approved before you submit an offer, because you need to make sure they still qualify for that price point. And unfortunately, a lot of them are kind of getting kicked out of it because of it, or they have to look at drastically less the house, maybe 50 grand less or 100. So just a reminder to keep those things updated.
Yeah, Greg sent out a note last week to me that said that a buyer that was approved a year ago for a $300,000 home, the equivalent to today's interest rate is a $190,000 house.
I believe that's almost half. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is huge. So,
that is huge.
You know, I think as our job as agents, our job now is to stay connected to the Anheusen clients, right? That now they've had their pre-approval updated and they realize, whoa, we don't have enough money to buy. We can't buy the house we want. So I always think about that sheet of paper with the margins, right? We're all interacting here and they've slid out to the edge. Our job as their agent is just to stay in touch with them, stay in the flow with people, because they didn't go anywhere. They didn't buy anything because they couldn't. So our job is really, and this is the part about the encouraging thing. We just want you to encourage you to find new ways to stay in touch with these people, because they're going to buy from somebody, right? Who's it going to be?
Yeah.
Are you going to stay in touch or not?
Me.
Yeah. You want it to be you. That's for sure.
Well, I'm glad we're having this pep talk, because again, as an agent, you can feel like your emotions are getting the best of you, right? I mean, you've gone through the year with many of your buyers, they haven't bought. You know, the last thing you want to show, especially the buyers that you've been committed to working with, is that gosh, I'm feeling the same way you guys are, guys. And will we ever get a house? Man, I just don't know if this is ever going to happen, right? Well, who wants to work with an agent like that?
Yeah, it's all about attitude. The other thing is sellers are getting more competitive, I think, and more willing to negotiate, especially like after inspections and things like that. Whereas before you were almost afraid, like, wow, you know, if we ask them to do this, or, you know, how can we put in a lower offer? Well, it's like that article Tracy sent out, submit the offer. It's worth a shot. You know, I think it's a great time for buyers. And I think it gets buyers off the fence. Because now rents are going up. I'm having buyers call and the rent went up because they're doing month to month. Now they're back on the hunt again, even if they have to go with a little bit smaller house than what they had before.
I think it's also important to encourage people, because I mean, I've had people that pulled out of the market even 2-3 years ago, and then they'll come back and I'm like, don't you wish you would have just bought something? Because you would have had like 100 grand of equity now. So sometimes it's better just to get into something.
Yeah.
And I just remind them, especially when it's a first time home buyer, this isn't your forever house. You're not going to stay here for the next 50 years. Get in something, build some equity, because I mean, if you stay in your rental, you're just paying somebody else's mortgage. So why not start building your equity instead? And you know what? Maybe 3 to 5 years down the road, you're now upgrading to your, you know, $300,000-$400,000 house easy. You know, you've built all that equity now over the last few years, and it's going to bounce back pretty quickly, I think, too. So I don't think we're going to be that affected. But I had a random, just so you guys know. So sometimes these buyers don't have a luxury of waiting. I listed a house in Granville a couple weeks ago. I had 11 offers on that house. It sold for
Yeah.
65 high, but it was interesting watching the offers come in because only one had an appraisal gap.
Mhm.
Only one. We hadn't taken the cash offer because I'm like, it's just the safest thing, right? And it was the highest bid anyway. So, but pretty much, I believe almost all of them were asking for inspection. So that was actually really nice and nice to see again, because I think people deserve to have that and know what's wrong with the house. So, yeah, so it was refreshing to see that again. But so it's for on that particular house, I think it was the backyard pool, which I thought was interesting because we couldn't give those things away 15 years ago. So it's like, but there's
And what
around here, I don't
price
know in
range
your
was that?
markets, but it's like a 1 to 2 year waiting list for pools here over in West Michigan. So
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
And,
and that's what-
you know what? And even if they're spending 50, 60 grand more for that particular house, it's going to cost them 100, 150 to put the pool in.
Mhm.
And they're still waiting for it. So,
Yeah.
but it was just, it was quite interesting to see a couple of weeks ago. It was completely unexpected. So
What price range, Ann, was it?
I listed it for 410. It sold for
Okay.
475. We close on Thursday.
Wow.
Really quick. Mhm.
Well, and that's part of the pep talk right there, is that market does still exist for the
Yeah.
right house.
Yeah.
With the right, finishings, right? I mean, so there are the buyers still there, and the ones that are really qualified they still want to compete, but they want their inspections, and they're
Mhm.
not gonna do a crazy appraisal gap guarantees and escalation clauses, but they did get out some of those tools still with your house.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to talk about was, and I'll ask all of you because we're all selling agents. I can't say that I've had an offer accepted or anyone on my team for this, but what about concessions? I think concessions are back right now. So when we talk about these buyers that have moved out to the margins, we might say to them, hey, when you're getting close, let me know. If we find the right house that's sitting out there for maybe 14 to 30 days, maybe that seller's getting a little wiggly and might be willing to give some concessions. Have you guys been seeing this yet?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're seeing MSHDA loans, get accepted, which were kind of tough during the real competitive time. VA, FHA, sellers are, especially if you educate your sellers exactly what those loan programs mean, with a great offer, they can work out. But yeah, I'm seeing it all, Tracy, really. I think it's a great time for a buyer. I really do.
yeah, I would agree with Cindy. The last 2 offers we just accepted had concessions in it. And again, that was just something that just didn't even exist, early part of this year. And
they were true. And they were true. It was a true offer for concessions, not a concession because of inspections.
nope, a true offer with concessions in it, right up front.
Okay.
Paragraph 6.
Well, there you heard it, right there, hot off the presses. Doug Hill.
Yay, Doug.
It's just crazy how things have changed. And in just such a short period of time, buyers want to hear from you, sellers want to hear from you. And again, this is where I always say we're kind of the calm in the storm. We're that calm voice that kind of gets people to think, hey, even in an election year, folks, towards the end of this year, finishing strong in the 4th quarter, there's still great opportunities, just like what you just mentioned, Ann. I mean, again, I'm going to mention your story in our coffee hours because, again, people they think there's an element of that that's gone away. Well, there might have been a little bit of that that's gone away, but here's a perfect example of how strong it still is in certain markets. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to buy houses and they should buy them from you.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
why, there's options out there and it's a great time. And I think if we give them the positive options of owning a home, and again, that rent is going way up,
Mhm.
and they
Yeah.
can own something and build equity, just like Ann said.
Mhm.
It's kind of funny that when you talk to people, especially buyers this day and age, you're obviously focused in there. A lot of the conversation circles around rates, things like that. Gosh, I wish I would have done this in January when the rates were low. Well, here they are today and they're going up. But when you say to people, what else is going up? Inventory. We're starting to see more houses on the market. So when you say those things to people, they're kind of like scratching their head like, wait a minute, interest rates are going up? but yet more people are wanting to get into the market. That to a lot of people, that just doesn't make sense, right?
I think what's happening though, I think people are trying to cash out because they see things shifting. And I think that's why we're seeing more of that. And I just met with somebody 2 weeks ago, sold his house pretty quickly, actually across the street from the other one. That's how I got that listing. But you know, they're building a condo, won't be done until May. And I went over to the house and what do you want for it? He's like 450. And I talked him down, listed it for 415, had it sold for 415. We'll close in about a few weeks. But, you know, that was one of those situations. I said, when were you going to list it? He was actually going to do for sale by owner in February. And I said, listen, I said, I don't know what's going to happen here in the next 4 or 5 months. I said, if I was you, I would just, you know, get rid of it now. He's going into a rental for a few months, which is fine for him. You know, he doesn't have kids or pets or anything. But I said, I would take what you could get right now without any, you can't guarantee what February is going to bring or March. And especially if we kind of slow up during this next few months, yeah, think about those appraisals. Where are those appraisals going to come from? They're going to come from these slow months that we potentially may have a small dip anyway. Yep. So I said, you're better off just cashing out now and move on. Go do your rental for a few months. He took my advice, and I mean, we had it sold in 2 days, so for full price.
That's good advice. That's good
awesome. Yeah,
I mean, those appraisals are going to come from somewhere. I said, right now you still have good appraisals. You know, the last few months, I said, you wait, you're going to have kind of a slower market and winter market, which is always kind of a little slower anyway. So I think your best bet is now. So I'm glad he listened.
Because some of those for sale by owners, they think they can sell them on their own, and they lose all that market time.
Oh, for sure.
I think we're seeing more for sale by owners that are going to be listing with realtors. We're seeing it in Lansing. I think we're going to see a lot of it.
Well,
I think around here we've really, I mean, I don't see that many for sale by owner signs. I haven't in the last several years. Because I think people know, if they're smart, they know to just list with us. We're going to blow away whatever they want for that money, having it fully marketed. You know, it's on several hundred websites, it's on the MLS, open houses, whatever, right? To get that thing, get top dollar for it. We more than make up for any fees they think they're saving, you know, so.
Exposure.
But I think that's why inventory is so interesting enough. The past 2 weeks here in Grand Rapids, we had 1.6 months of inventory last week, and now we're down to 1.2 this week. So kind of interesting. So I don't know if some of these are just selling, or, you know, people are pulling back a little bit. I don't know. I watch those every week, so it's kind of interesting to me.
Well, the one thing that you just said that I want to glean again as a point of encouragement, because that's what this is about today, is you said I had a listing, and then you alluded to another listing that you got from that listing.
Yeah.
So let's don't ever discount the person in front of us, because we have an opportunity to meet others as a result of that billboard that's in that front yard of that home. Amen. So if you're you know, a pro, you might be putting together a nice flyer, mailing it, or canvassing the neighborhood, however you to choose it, because it's sort of an introduction of who you are and your ability to connect people. And I don't know how it is that you got this listing, Ann, whether it was just
they called me. It was easy. So I got lucky. You know, my neighbor, my 11 offers seller, they were raving about me, you know, that weekend to them. And so I had a phone call by Tuesday, met with them for 3 hours on Wednesday, and had it listed by Friday. So, and had it sold by Sunday. Yeah. So, and it's just because they're like, well, we want you to do what you did over there, and completely different house, no pool. So, but anyway, but that's the story I just told you too, they were going to be for sale by owner in February, but I just got lucky on that one. But yeah, I would definitely encourage people, you know, when you do sell something in the neighborhood, send out a postcard, send out a file, this was a cul-de-sac. I could have easily sat there and door knocked, you know, for a couple hours, you know.
Yeah. Even if it's just a just sold, you could be, help
Yeah.
me welcome your new neighbor, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or, you know, your
Mhm.
new neighbors at this address. There's lots of ways to be communicating with potential sellers, or
Mhm.
because they could become a buyer as well. So look for opportunity no matter where you are, because the buyers and the sellers are out there. Our job is to figure out how to communicate with them.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Well
well
said.
good. Any final thoughts from anybody? Do we have any questions? I don't see any questions. Any final thoughts from anybody?
I'm
Let's
just,
go get those buyers.
I'm
Yeah.
just getting a lot of advice from Ann on this. Man alive, I'm gonna go across the street and talk to the neighbor.
Well, my advice,
I definitely got lucky on that one.
that's excellent. My advice is make the showing appointment. Don't be afraid to write the offer, whether you have an FHA, a VA, a Mission loan, as Cindy alluded to, write the offer. There's less
Yeah.
contingencies that are out there now. Buyers have more opportunities today than they have really had in at least 3 years. I mean, at least 3 years. So I hope you all feel encouraged, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Doug and Cindy, thanks for the pros that you are and the advice that you offer. Everyone have a wonderful day.
You
Yeah.
too, great.
Bye,
You too,
everybody.
Chris.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.